The bioluminescent jungle of Aurelis pulsed with life as dawn broke over the eastern canopy. Massive violet trees towered hundreds of meters into the atmosphere, their branches adorned with delicate tendrils that glowed with an internal light. Emerald vines thick as a man's thigh snaked up the trunks, forming a natural lattice that vanished into the heights above. The humid air hung heavy, filled with the subtle scents of alien flora and the distant calls of creatures stirring with the morning light. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blackwood wiped sweat from his brow as he surveyed the clearing where his emergency pod had crashed 3 days earlier. His combat suit, a marvel of Earth technology, was dented and scraped in a dozen places, but the system indicators still glowed a reassuring green along his forearm display. He had spent those first 72 hours establishing a perimeter, cataloging local flora for potential food sources, and repeatedly attempting to boost his emergency beacon. Still nothing, he muttered, checking the signal strength for the third time that morning. The quantum pulse should have reached the fleet orbiting the fourth moon, but interference from Aurelis's unusual magnetic field made communications spotty at best. He could only hope Captain Reyes would initiate search protocols once he missed his second check-in. From 50 meters above, hidden among the phosphorescent leaves of a towering sentinel tree, Neri watched the human with unwavering attention. Her orange skin patterned with sacred white markings that swirled across her shoulders and down her arms, blended perfectly with the burnt, amber bark surrounding her. Silver-white hair braided tightly against her scalp captured the early morning light, like liquid metal. She had been observing the outsider since his violent arrival, when his metal seed had torn through the upper canopy, leaving a scar of broken branches and scattered nests. The elders had given her this duty when the sky vessels first appeared above their world months ago. As forest guardian of the southern reaches, she was to observe any outsiders for threats to her people, and most importantly, to the sacred ferocious who ruled these jungles. 3 generations of peace had passed since the last outsiders, brutal hunters, who had slaughtered a mating pair of ferocious for their crystalline heart organs. The memory of that bloodshed lived in the stories told around council fires and in the scars still visible on the oldest trees. "You do not belong here," she whispered in her native tongue, knowing the human couldn't hear her. "Your kind brings only destruction." Ryan's attention shifted suddenly to the eastern edge of his camp. Something had disturbed the warning line he'd strung with microthin filament and sonic alerts. Dropping to a crouch, he reached for the compact pulse rifle, leaning against his pack, then hesitated. Captain Reyes had been explicit in her orders: scientific observation, only minimal disruption to the ecosystem, and absolutely no aggressive action toward indigenous life forms unless survival was directly threatened. Instead, he reached for the scanner at his belt, thumbing it to life. The readout showed a heat signature moving erratically along the perimeter, smaller than a human, approximately 30 kilograms, and moving on what appeared to be 6 limbs. Based on the lecture Dr. Kimura had given the scout team before deployment, this matched the profile of at least a dozen species native to the Aurelian mid-canopy. "Probably just curious," Ryan said aloud, his voice calm and measured. "No different than a raccoon back home." The comparison proved woefully inadequate when the creature finally emerged from the undergrowth. Standing hip-high on 4 muscular legs, with 2 smaller forelimbs tucked against its chest, the juvenile ferocious was anything but raccoon-like. Its hide shimmered with patches of blue-black scales, interspersed with smooth purple skin. A crown of luminous spines rose from its head, flaring with agitation as it caught Ryan's scent. Most alarming were the curved fangs protruding from its upper jaw, gleaming like polished obsidian in the morning light. Ryan froze, recognizing the creature from Dr. Kimura's briefing. The ferocious apex predators of Aurelis were reportedly responsible for more native deaths than any other species. Adults could grow to the size of earth tigers with natural armor plating that could deflect primitive projectiles. Their hunting territories spanned dozens of square kilometers, and they were intensely protective of their young, which meant the cub's mother couldn't be far away. The juvenile, ferocious, sniffed the air, its slit-pupilled eyes startlingly emerald against its dark face, fixing on Ryan with unmistakable intelligence. It chuffed a sound somewhere between a growl and a chirp, and took a tentative step forward. "Easy there," Ryan said softly, remaining absolutely still. His training had covered encounters with dangerous Earth predators. The principles should be similar. No sudden movements, no threatening postures, no direct eye contact. Despite his hammering heart, he kept his voice steady. "Just passing through your territory, friend. No harm intended." The cub tilted its head, seemingly puzzled by his voice. It chuffed again, this time with a questioning lilt. Ryan's mind raced. The creature was clearly hungry, its ribs visible beneath the sleek hide, and had likely been drawn by the scent of the protein rations he'd heated for breakfast. Keeping his movements deliberate and slow, he reached into his pack and extracted a nutrient bar. "Hungry, huh?" he asked, unwrapping the bar and breaking off a small piece. With infinite care, he tossed it halfway between them. The cub startled at the movement, spines flaring to full extension, but curiosity quickly overcame caution. It approached the morsel, sniffed carefully, then snatched it up with alarming speed. After a moment of consideration, it swallowed and fixed those intelligent eyes on Ryan, once more, this time with expectation. "More where that came from," Ryan said, breaking off another piece and tossing it slightly closer to himself. Over the next 15 minutes, he repeated the process, each piece landing closer to him than the last, until finally, the cub was taking food directly from his extended palm. When the bar was gone, the juvenile, ferocious, sat back on its haunches and regarded Ryan thoughtfully. The spines on its head had relaxed now, merely a gentle crown, rather than a threatening display. It made a soft, trilling sound that raised the hairs on Ryan's neck, not from fear, but from the uncanny sense that he was being thanked. Then, with a final chuff, the cub turned and disappeared back into the jungle as swiftly as it had arrived. From her vantage point, Neri gripped the branch beneath her so hard that a sliver of bark broke off in her hand. What she had witnessed was impossible. The ferocious were the embodiment of jungle justice, merciless to intruders and strangers. They were the sacred guardians who had entered into covenant with her ancestors 10,000 cycles past. They did not accept food from outsiders. They did not sit calmly in the presence of humans from beyond the stars. Yet, she had seen it with her own eyes. The outsider had shown neither fear nor aggression. He had offered sustenance with open hands. Most shockingly, the young, ferocious, barely weaned from its mother's care, had accepted him. For the first time since her vigil began, doubt crept into Neri's certainty. Perhaps not all outsiders were despoilers. Perhaps this one was different. She would continue to watch. Night fell with the sudden completeness, typical of Aurelius. The jungle transitioned from the gold-green light of day to the blue-violet glow of nocturnal bioluminescence in the span of 20 minutes. Ryan had reinforced his shelter, a simple lean-to constructed from emergency kit components and local materials. The temperature would drop significantly before dawn, but his suit would compensate. He was just settling into his sleeping role when the proximity alarm chimed softly. The scanner revealed multiple heat signatures at the perimeter, 1 large, 3 small. The young ferocious had returned, but it wasn't alone. Ryan stepped cautiously from his shelter pulse rifle, slung across his back, accessible but not in hand. His night vision implants adjusted quickly, revealing the scene at the edge of his camp. The cub from that morning stood at the tree line, flanked by 2 siblings of similar size. Behind them, massive and watchful, was the adult female. Her scales gleamed midnight blue in the bioluminescent light, and the crown of spines atop her head rose a full 30 centimeters above her skull. She stood as tall as Ryan's shoulder with a body mass that had to exceed 200 kilograms. "Hello again," Ryan said quietly, focusing his gaze just to the side of the matriarch's face, avoiding direct eye contact. "Brought the family this time, I see." The adult, ferocious, rumbled a sound that vibrated Ryan's sternum. Her emerald eyes, never left him as the three cubs shuffled forward, encouraged by their siblings' earlier foray. Their spines flared and settled in nervous patterns, but hunger clearly outweighed trepidation. Moving with the same deliberate pace as before, Ryan retrieved his ration pack. The adult watched every movement, muscles tensed for action if needed. He prepared a variety of protein portions, broke them into appropriate sizes, and began the same ritual of offering first at a distance, then gradually closer. The cubs approached with varying degrees of caution. The original visitor led the way, while its siblings followed with more hesitation. Eventually, all three were accepting food directly from Ryan's hand, occasionally brushing against his legs like overgrown house cats. The adult Ferocious never approached the offerings herself. Instead, she settled onto her haunches at the edge of the clearing, watching the interaction with an intensity that made Ryan acutely aware of his vulnerability. One wrong move, one misinterpreted gesture, and those massive jaws could end his mission permanently. When the food was gone, Ryan expected the family to retreat into the jungle. Instead, to his amazement, the three cubs circled his legs once more, then trotted back to their mother. After a moment of apparent communication consisting of soft chuffs and head movements, the adult Ferocious rose and approached Ryan directly. Every instinct screamed at him to back away, to reach for his weapon to flee. He suppressed them all, standing his ground with open, empty hands. The massive predator stopped less than a meter away, close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her body and smell the musky scent of her breath. The Ferocious lowered her head, bringing her eyes level with his. For a long, breathless moment, they regarded each other, apex predators from different worlds, measuring and evaluating. Then, with deliberate slowness, she extended her head and brushed her muzzle against his outstretched hand. The contact lasted only seconds, but Ryan understood its significance immediately. He had been assessed and, for reasons he couldn't fully comprehend, accepted. With a final rumble that sounded almost approving, the Ferocious turned, gathered her cubs with a flick of her tail, and melted back into the jungle night. Ryan released the breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Well," he said to the empty clearing, "that was unexpected." From her perch, high above, Neri could no longer deny what her eyes witnessed. The mother, Ferocious, a beast who had claimed 3 hunters from neighboring villages last season alone, had acknowledged the outsider as worthy of trust. More incredibly, she had permitted her cubs to approach him to feed from his hand. Such behavior defied all she had been taught about both the sacred predators and the dangers of outsiders. With the rising dawn, Neri made her decision. After 5 days of observation, she would reveal herself. If the Ferocious deemed this human worthy of acceptance, perhaps he deserved the same consideration from her. The jungle was alive with morning activity when Ryan emerged from his shelter. Birds with prismatic plumage darted between branches, calling to mates with melodic trills. Tiny, 6-legged lizards scurried across the clearing, their scales changing color to match whatever surface they crossed. The air was thick with moisture, promising another day of oppressive humidity. He was inventorying his remaining supplies when a flicker of movement caught his attention. This wasn't the erratic approach of a curious predator, but the deliberate, controlled descent of someone moving down through the canopy with practiced ease. He straightened, hands conspicuously empty, as a figure dropped the final few meters to land in a half-crouch at the edge of the clearing. Rising to full height, matching Ryan's own 6 feet, was clearly a female of the native species. Dr. Kimura's briefing had included limited information on the Aurelians, gleaned mostly from distant observation. The reality was far more striking. Her skin was a vibrant orange, darker along her back, and lightening to amber across her chest and face. Complex patterns of white markings, seemingly both natural and artificial, decorated her skin in swirling designs that emphasized the lean musculature beneath. Silver-white hair was woven into intricate braids that incorporated small crystals and what appeared to be polished seeds. She wore minimal clothing, a simple wrap around her hips, and a series of decorated leather straps across her torso that seemed more ceremonial than functional. Most arresting were her eyes, large almond-shaped, and a startling violet that seemed to shift hue as the light changed. Those eyes regarded him now with a mixture of wariness and curiosity. Ryan remained motionless, allowing her to make the first move. After a moment of mutual assessment, she spoke a complex series of clicks, trills, and melodic syllables that his translator implant struggled to process. The device had been programmed with limited Aurelian linguistics, based on distant recordings, but clearly needed more input to function effectively. He tapped the small device behind his ear, activating its learning algorithm. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand. My translator needs time to process your language." The Aurelian tilted her head, considering. Then, to Ryan's surprise, she spoke again this time, in heavily accented but understandable standard trade, the simplified language used throughout the explored systems for basic communication. "You are outsider, sky vessel human." She gestured upward, then back to him. "Why you here alone?" Ryan kept his posture open and non-threatening. "My name is Ryan Blackwood, Lieutenant Commander of the United Earth Fleet. My pod crashed during a scouting mission. I'm trying to contact my ship." She studied him, then glanced toward the ferocious cubs who had reappeared at the edge of the clearing. "You feed young ferocious. Touch mother ferocious. This not happened before." "They seemed hungry," Ryan said simply. "I had food to share." "Ferocious not take from strangers. Not allow touch. Not bring young." She took a step closer, her movements fluid and controlled. "I am Neri, Guardian of Southern Reaches. I watch you 5 days now." Ryan nodded, unsurprised by the revelation. He had suspected observation since the second day, but had seen no reason to force a confrontation. "I've been hoping someone would make contact. I mean no harm to your world or your people. I'm just trying to rejoin my ship." Neri gestured to the cubs who were now wrestling playfully just beyond the clearing. "Ferocious choose who worthy. They judge true heart." She touched her chest, then pointed to him. "They judge you worthy. This mean much." "I'm honored," Ryan said, meaning it. "Where I come from, we have similar animals predators who rarely trust humans. Earning their trust is considered special." Neri seemed to consider this, then made a decision. "Sun high soon. Too hot for talk. I return when shadows long." She turned to go, then paused. "You stay in camp, not wander. Jungle dangerous for outsiders who not know paths." Ryan agreed with a nod. "I'll be here." With a final assessing look, Neri leapt upward, catching a low-hanging vine with practiced ease. In seconds, she had disappeared into the canopy, leaving Ryan alone with the playing cubs and a host of new questions. True to her word, Neri returned as the sun began its descent. This time, she brought a woven bag that contained what appeared to be local fruits and something wrapped in broad leaves. The ferocious family had departed hours earlier, though Ryan suspected they remained nearby, watching from the dense undergrowth. "You eat Aurelian food?" Neri asked, setting out her offerings on a flat stone near his camp. "Your body accept—" Ryan consulted his scanner, which analyzed the fruits and wrapped packages. "My equipment says they're compatible with my digestion. I've been eating some local plants already." He gestured to several specimens he'd harvested, based on similarity to Earth botanicals. Neri unwrapped the leaf packages, revealing strips of smoked meat. "Tasca bird," she explained. "Good protein, help strength." They shared the meal as the light faded, sitting across from a small fire Ryan had built. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows across Neri's features, highlighting the white patterns that swirled across her orange skin. In the firelight, Ryan noticed more details. The 3 digits on each hand, the subtle points of her ears, the way her eyes reflected light like a cat's. "Your people know of Aurelians before sky vessels come?" she asked between bites of fruit. Ryan shook his head. "We had detected signs of intelligent life, but we had no direct contact or images until the fleet arrived in your system 6 months ago. Our mission is peaceful scientific study and potential diplomatic relations, if your people are interested. Elders debate many nights about sky vessels, Neri said. Some say hide, some say fight, some say talk. She gestured to the jungle around them. I say watch first. Judge actions, not words. A wise approach, Ryan agreed. In my experience, actions reveal true intentions better than any speech. Neri's expression shifted, something like approval flitting across her features. You are scout. This mean what? I explore new areas before others come, Ryan explained. I assess dangers, catalog resources, make contact with indigenous life when possible. He touched the emblem on his shoulder. I'm part of the Emergency Pod Scout Division we deploy in single-person pods for rapid assessment. You fight also. She gestured to the pulse rifle leaning against his pack. Only if necessary for survival, Ryan said firmly. Our mission prohibits aggression against local populations, animal or sentient. This is primarily for defense against environmental hazards. Neri seemed to weigh his words carefully. What is role of Neri among her people? I am forest guardian, she said with evident pride. I protect boundaries, watch for threats, commune with ferocious. She touched one of the white markings on her forearm. These sacred patterns show my calling. I am chosen by elders as child, trained in old ways. Ryan leaned forward with genuine interest. You mentioned the ferocious earlier, that they choose who is worthy. Do they have a special significance to your people? Neri's expression became solemn. Ferocious are sacred judges of Aurelius. 10,000 cycles passed when great discord tore tribes apart. Ferocious came to ancestors. They form pact. Aurelians protect jungle honor, sacred places. Ferocious judge disputes, guard against outside threats. She looked directly at Ryan. They see true heart, cannot be deceived. And they approached me, Ryan said, understanding dawning. That's why you decided to make contact. Neri nodded. Ferocious mother allow cubs near you. This not happen in living memory. She gestured to herself. Even I, guardian with sacred marks, not touch ferocious until 7th year of training. The implications were clear. Whatever test the predators applied, Ryan had passed in a way that few natives ever did. As night fell completely, their conversation continued. Ryan explained the Earth Fleet's mission of peaceful exploration, while Neri described her people's deep connection to the jungle ecosystem. They discovered surprising similarities between their roles, both observers, both charged with protection, both mediators between different worlds. When Neri finally rose to leave, her earlier wariness had largely disappeared. Tomorrow I show you sacred pool, she said. Place where ferocious drink. Perhaps your beacon work better there, fewer tall trees. Ryan nodded gratefully. I'd appreciate that. And thank you for the meal and the company. Neri paused, studying him in the dying firelight. Ferocious judge, well, she said simply, then disappeared into the darkness. The sacred pool was everything its name suggested, a perfectly circular body of water, perhaps 50 meters across, fed by a cascading waterfall that emerged from the rock face on the northern edge. The water was startlingly clear and tinged with a subtle blue luminescence that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of the falls. Stone formations ringed the pool, worn smooth by generations of use. Water connects all life on Aurelius, Neri explained, as they approached the shoreline. Sacred pools form at junctions of underground rivers. This one, very old, very powerful. Ryan set up his beacon on a flat rock outcropping with clear sky visibility. The diagnostic cycle showed improved signal strength, though still not optimal. It might work here, he said. At least the transmission should reach higher altitudes. Neri watched the blinking lights on his equipment with cautious fascination. Your sky vessels hear tiny voice from so far. If the signal's strong enough, Ryan explained. Think of it like... He paused, searching for a comparison she would understand. Like how the call of certain birds carries much farther than others, because of the pitch and strength. This device calls on frequencies that can travel beyond the atmosphere. While the beacon cycled through its transmission sequence, they explored the perimeter of the pool. Neri pointed out various plants with medicinal properties and showed Ryan how to identify the tracks of different jungle creatures in the soft earth near the water's edge. "Ferocious come at dusk to drink," she said, indicating a set of massive prints that dwarfed Ryan's hand. "This male territory stretches to western ridges." Ryan was examining a cluster of iridescent fungi when Neri suddenly froze her head, tilted in a listening posture. "Something wrong," she whispered, dropping into a crouch. Ryan immediately followed suit, scanning the area. "What is it?" "Ferocious calls, distress signals." Her expression was troubled. "Coming from North Ridge. Mother, from your camp." Without waiting for a response, Neri was in motion, moving through the jungle with a speed and agility that Ryan struggled to match. Despite his physical conditioning, he found himself breathless, trying to keep pace with her as she navigated unseen paths through the dense vegetation. The distress calls became audible to Ryan's ears as they approached a rocky outcropping, half a kilometer from the sacred pool. The sound was unmistakable, the throaty roar he had heard from the mother ferocious, but now tinged with pain and urgency. Neri slowed their approach as they neared a small clearing. "Careful," she warned. "Injured, ferocious, dangerous, even to guardians." They crept to the edge of the clearing and immediately saw the source of the distress. The mother ferocious was partially trapped, her rear leg caught in what appeared to be a metal device, half buried in the soil. The mechanism, clearly not of Aurelian origin, had clamped around the predator's limb, its serrated edges digging into the scaled hide. Dark blood pooled beneath her as she struggled against the restraint. The three cubs circled their mother anxiously, their spine crowns fully extended in agitation. One growled upon noticing Ryan and Neri, but the mother chuffed sharply, and the cub retreated. "Poacher trap," Neri hissed, anger darkening her features. "Forbidden technology. Causes great pain, keeps prey alive until hunters return." She pointed to a small blinking device attached to the trap. "Signal calls them when prey caught." Ryan studied the mechanism with growing rage. The trap was cruelly efficient, designed to immobilize without killing, allowing the hunters to collect their prize alive. "Your people don't use these." "Never," Neri spat. "Aurelians hunt with honor, quick death. Use all parts, give thanks. This," she gestured to the trap, "this torture, outsider technology." Ryan's mind raced. His emergency medical kit contained painkillers and tissue regenerators calibrated for human physiology, potentially useless or even harmful to the ferocious. The trap itself appeared to operate on a simple pressure release mechanism, but freeing the predator would place them in immediate proximity to a wounded apex predator. "The hunters will return soon," Neri said urgently. "Signal device already active." Ryan made his decision. "I can disable the trap, but we'll need to calm her first." He reached slowly into his pack and removed the remaining protein rations. "Can you communicate with her at all? Make her understand we're trying to help." Neri looked uncertain. "Guardians learn to read ferocious mood, predict actions, not true speech." But she moved forward cautiously, making a series of low melodic sounds in her throat. The mother ferocious watched her approach, spine crown fluctuating between aggressive and neutral positions. "Tell her I'm going to approach from the side," Ryan said quietly. "I'll need to get close to the mechanism." Neri continued the soft vocalizations as Ryan edged slowly toward the trapped limb. The ferocious watched him with those intelligent emerald eyes, muscles tensed, but not attacking. When he was within 2 meters, he slowly knelt and placed several protein bars on the ground between them. "I'm going to help you," he said in the same calm tone he had used with the cubs. "This is going to hurt, but then it will be better." The predator made a low rumbling sound but remained still as Ryan inched closer to the trap. Up close, he could see that the mechanism was even more sophisticated than it appeared, not just mechanical, but incorporating neural disruptors that would send pain signals up the victim's nervous system if it struggled too forcefully. Whoever built this knew exactly what they were doing, he muttered darkly. The design was familiar, similar to prohibited devices used by illegal safari operations in the Centauri system. The fleet had shut down several such operations over the past decade, but clearly some had escaped to establish new hunting grounds. Ryan removed a multi-tool from his belt and began working on the control panel of the trap. If he could disable the neural component first, it would make the mechanical release less traumatic. The Ferocious watched every movement, occasionally flinching when his actions caused the trap to shift against her wounded limb. "Almost there," he said soothingly. "Just a little longer." A warning call from one of the cubs made both Ryan and Neri look up sharply. At the far edge of the clearing, partially obscured by dense foliage, stood a figure in matte black combat gear. The helmet visor obscured their features, but the weapon in their hands was unmistakably a high-powered hunting rifle, illegal in most civilized systems. "Down!" Ryan shouted, throwing himself sideways as the figure fired. The energy pulse sizzled through the air where he had been kneeling, striking a tree behind him and scorching a hole through the trunk. Neri had already rolled into the underbrush, moving with preternatural speed. The cubs scattered in 3 directions, while their mother roared in fury, pulling against the trap with renewed desperation. "Keep working," Neri called from somewhere to his left. "I distract Hunter." Ryan scrambled back to the trap, fingers working furiously on the mechanism as another energy pulse tore through the clearing. From the corner of his eye, he saw Neri launch herself from an overhanging branch, landing on the hunter's shoulders and driving them to the ground. The control panel of the trap finally yielded the neural disruptors, powering down with a high-pitched whine. Now came the dangerous part, manually releasing the mechanical jaws that still held the Ferocious captive. "This is going to hurt," he warned the predator, who seemed to understand the gravity of the moment. "But it's the only way." Ryan positioned himself at the optimal angle, then pressed the emergency release. The jaws snapped open with a metallic screech, and the Ferocious immediately pulled her injured limb free. For one terrifying moment, Ryan found himself face to face with the unleashed predator, her fangs mere centimeters from his throat. Their eyes met human and alien in a moment of profound connection. Then, the Ferocious did something that sent a chill down Ryan's spine. It dipped its head in a deliberate motion, touching its forehead briefly to his shoulder before turning toward the sounds of combat. Neri was locked in desperate struggle with the poacher, who had drawn a vibroblade and was slashing wildly at her. She evaded most attacks with graceful agility, but a thin line of orange blood traced her forearm where the blade had found its mark. Before Ryan could intervene, the mother Ferocious launched herself across the clearing with explosive force. Despite her injured leg, she covered the distance in seconds, her roar reverberating through the jungle like a physical force. The poacher had just enough time to look up before 200 kilograms of enraged predator slammed into them. The outcome was never in doubt. The Ferocious pinned the hunter with massive paws fangs poised above the helmet visor. For a breathless moment, death seemed certain. Then, to Ryan's astonishment, the predator looked back toward him, as if seeking judgment. "Don't kill them," Ryan said firmly, stepping forward. "We need to know if there are others." Whether the Ferocious understood his words, or merely his intent, she adjusted her attack, clamping her jaws around the hunter's weapon arm instead of their throat. The poacher screamed as fangs pierced the combat suit and the flesh beneath. Ryan quickly secured the dropped weapons, while Neri approached their captive. With precise movements, she removed the helmet, revealing a male human with weather-beaten features and a cybernetic eye implant, typical of experienced hunters who enhanced their natural abilities with illegal tech. "How many in your hunting party?" Ryan demanded. The man spat defiantly. "Go to hell, Fleet Boy. You're a long way from your uniform and regulations." The Ferocious growled, increasing pressure on the trapped arm. The man's defiance crumbled under the pain. "4," he gasped. "4 of us plus the shuttle pilot. Base camp is 10 clicks east near the ridge." Ryan exchanged glances with Neri. 5 hunters with advanced weapons could do incalculable damage to the ecosystem and to her people before the fleet even realized what was happening. Shuttle has defenses. The man continued, evidently hoping to bargain for his release. Automated turrets, shield generators. You'll never get close. We don't need to, Ryan said, an idea forming. We just need to redirect your friends. Working together, Ryan and Neri secured the poacher with restraints from his own gear, then disabled his communications equipment. The ferocious mother kept watch, her intelligent eyes, never leaving the captive as her cubs returned from hiding to inspect the strange human. What is plan? Neri asked as they finished. Ryan pointed to the trap's signaling device, which he had removed intact. We're going to reset this in a new location away from the shuttle deep in the jungle where the terrain gives us advantage. He gestured to the ferocious. And then we're going to use the local expertise to even the odds. Neri's violet eyes widened as she understood. Lure hunters into ferocious territory. Exactly, Ryan confirmed. But first I need to try something with my beacon. If I can boost the signal enough to reach the fleet, we can end this quickly. They relocated to a high ridge overlooking the eastern jungle, where Ryan made adjustments to his emergency beacon. By cannibalizing components from the poacher's equipment, he managed to increase transmission power significantly. This is Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blackwood, Emergency Pod Scout ID, Sierra Tango 241, he transmitted. Priority alert, illegal poaching operation on Aurelius surface targeting protected species. Request immediate intervention coordinates to follow. He had no way of knowing if the message reached the fleet, but it was their best hope of official backup. In the meantime, they would implement their trap for the remaining hunters. With Neri's guidance, they identified the perfect location, a narrow ravine where the dense canopy would prevent air support and the steep walls would limit escape routes. The ferocious, seeming to grasp their intent with uncanny perception, led them to an area where 3 territories overlapped, potentially drawing in multiple predators when the trap was sprung. Ferocious communicate across great distances, Neri explained, as they set the bait. Mother will call others when hunters come. Ryan activated the poacher's signal device, which would broadcast the same frequency as a successful trap, drawing the hunting party to investigate. Then, they retreated to elevated positions among the massive trees, with clear sightlines to the ravine floor below. They didn't have to wait long. Within 2 hours, the unmistakable sound of repulsor engines echoed through the jungle as the hunter's transport approached the signal's origin. The craft, a sleek military-grade shuttle that had been stripped of identifiers, settled in a small clearing, 100 meters from the ravine, unable to land closer due to the dense canopy. 4 figures in combat gear emerged, weapons at the ready. Unlike their captured companion, these hunters moved with professional precision, maintaining formation as they advanced toward the signal. They're well-trained, Ryan observed quietly. Military background, possibly mercenaries. Neri nodded grimly. More dangerous than simple poachers. As the hunting party entered the ravine, the mother ferocious who had positioned herself downwind let out a roar that echoed from the stone walls like thunder. The hunters immediately dropped into defensive postures, their weapons tracking the sound. What followed was not so much a battle as a calculated execution of natural justice. 2 more ferocious emerged from concealed positions, cutting off retreat. The hunters fired wildly, energy pulses illuminating the darkening jungle in strobes of destructive light. But the predators moved with impossible speed, using the terrain to evade direct hits. Ryan and Neri remained hidden, bearing witness as the ferocious implemented a hunting strategy that spoke to their legendary intelligence. They didn't attack directly, but harassed from multiple angles, forcing the hunters to expend energy and ammunition. When one hunter broke formation, running for the perceived safety of higher ground, a waiting ferocious pounced from an overhanging branch, taking him down with surgical precision. The remaining hunters retreated toward their shuttle, maintaining some semblance of unit cohesion, even as panic set in. They might have reached the relative safety of their craft had Ryan not taken action. Using the poacher's own equipment, He remotely triggered the emergency lockdown sequence of the shuttle, a standard feature designed to protect valuable equipment if the hunting party was lost. Trapped between the advancing predators and their inaccessible transport, the hunters' discipline finally broke. 2 threw down their weapons in surrender. The third was brought down by a leaping Ferocious before he could activate what appeared to be an explosive device. Night had fallen by the time they secured the survivors. The Ferocious, remarkably, had killed only one hunter, the one who had attempted to deploy the explosive. The others were injured but alive, bound with their own restraints, and placed under guard by the increasingly numerous Ferocious who had answered the mother's call. "Your people," Ryan asked Neri as they surveyed the captured hunting party. "What will they do with them?" Neri's expression was solemn in the moonlight. "Elders will judge. Punishment for harming Ferocious is severe, but death rare. More likely exile to barren lands beyond western ranges." She glanced at him. "Unless your sky vessel people claim them first." As if summoned by her words, a new sound cut through the night, the distinctive hum of fleet interceptors entering the atmosphere. Ryan's enhanced vision caught the telltale contrails of at least 3 ships descending rapidly. "Looks like my message got through," he said with relief. "The fleet will handle the poachers according to Galactic Accord protocols and seize their equipment as evidence." Neri watched the approaching vessels with mixed emotions evident on her features. "Your people come in peace, not like these," she gestured to the captive hunters. "In peace," Ryan affirmed. "Captain Reyes is a scientist first, a diplomat second, and a soldier only, when necessary to protect both." He turned to face Neri directly. "This could be a beginning proper diplomatic contact between our peoples, if you're willing." The mother Ferocious approached them limping slightly, on her injured leg, but moving with determined purpose. She stopped before Neri, and the two regarded each other in silence for a long moment. Then the predator chuffed softly, and dipped her head in the same gesture she had shown Ryan earlier. Neri's eyes widened. "Ferocious gives blessing," she whispered. "She acknowledges alliance." Ryan understood the significance immediately. "Then perhaps it's time for both our peoples to do the same." The fleet interceptors landed in a clearing, half a kilometer away. Their arrival coordinated through Ryan's emergency transponder. Captain Reyes herself led the ground team, a rare occurrence that underscored the seriousness with which she viewed the situation. Helena Reyes was a striking figure, even in standard field gear, tall, with silver-streaked black hair, pulled into a tight bun, and features that reflected her Spanish-Filipino heritage. Her reputation as a fair but uncompromising commander had earned her command of the UES Horizon, the fleet's primary scientific vessel. "Lieutenant Commander," she greeted Ryan with a perfect blend of professional courtesy and genuine relief. "Your unscheduled absence has been noted in your file." A hint of a smile softened her formal tone. "Along with commendation for First Contact Initiative." Ryan introduced Neri, explaining the circumstances of their meeting and the subsequent events with the poachers. Captain Reyes listened attentively, her expression darkening when she saw the injured Ferocious and the poaching equipment. "Gamma Syndicate operation by the look of it," she observed, examining the confiscated gear. "We've been tracking their movements since they slipped past the Centauri blockade. Didn't expect to find them this far into uncharted space." She turned to Neri with respectful formality. "On behalf of the United Earth Fleet, I extend apologies for the actions of these criminals and gratitude for your assistance in apprehending them." Neri studied the captain with the same assessing gaze she had first directed at Ryan. "You speak truth," she said finally. "Outsiders not all same. Some destroy, some protect." She gestured to the Ferocious, who watched the proceedings with intelligent interest. "Sacred judges accept you. Neri accept also." Captain Reyes recognized the significance of the moment. "Would you consider introducing me to your elders? I believe our peoples have much to discuss, and perhaps an official alliance to consider." 2 days later, Ryan found himself in a position he could never have anticipated when his pod crashed into the Aurelian jungle. He stood beside Captain Reyes in the heart of the Aurelian village, a spectacular arrangement of dwellings built into and around the massive trees connected by bridges of woven vines and illuminated by bioluminescent fungi, cultivated specifically for this purpose. The Council of Elders. 7 Aurelians whose white markings were even more elaborate than Neri's sat in a semicircle before them. Behind the council, dozens of villagers watched with expressions ranging from curiosity to lingering suspicion. Most remarkable was the presence of 3 adult ferocious, who lay at measured intervals around the gathering, their emerald eyes, missing nothing. The mother from Ryan's camp was among them, her injured leg, now wrapped in a poultice of local medicinals. Captain Reyes presented the formal diplomatic overture with eloquence, outlining the potential benefits of alliance between their peoples, scientific exchange protection from further poaching incursions, and mutual respect for territorial boundaries. The lead elder, a female whose orange skin had faded to amber with age, listened carefully before responding in the trade tongue. For 10,000 cycles Aurelians keep to ourselves. Other outsiders come before some trade, some steal, some destroy. Always they leave and jungle heals. She gestured to Ryan. But never before has outsider earned trust of ferocious. Never before has outsider fought to protect what's sacred. She rose from her seat, approaching Ryan directly. Guardian Neri tells of your actions. Tells how you feed hungry cubs, free trapped mother risk life against poachers. Her violet eyes, clouded slightly with age, studied him intently. These actions speak louder than diplomat words. Ryan maintained respectful eye contact. I was taught that the measure of any civilization is how it treats the most vulnerable, and how it respects the natural world that sustains it. The elder nodded, seemingly satisfied. She turned to address Captain Reyes. Sky vessel humans may establish small presence here. Learn Aurelian ways, share knowledge that benefits both. She gestured to the surrounding jungle. But numbers must be small. Impact must be light. Sacred balance must be maintained. Agreed, Captain Reyes said without hesitation. We propose a single liaison officer with a small research team that rotates on a seasonal basis. No permanent structures beyond what your council approves. The terms were negotiated carefully over the next several hours, with Ryan frequently called upon to clarify points of misunderstanding. His unique position, trusted by both sides, made him an ideal mediator. When the formal discussions concluded, the lead elder made a final pronouncement that caught Ryan by surprise. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blackwood, she said, using his full title with careful pronunciation, Council requests you remain as first liaison between our peoples. You have proven worthy by sacred judgment of ferocious and by own actions. Captain Reyes glanced at him, raising an eyebrow. The choice is yours, Lieutenant Commander. It's an unorthodox assignment, but perhaps the most important diplomatic position we've established in a decade. Ryan didn't hesitate. I would be honored to accept the assignment, he said, bowing to the council. With one condition. He turned to where Neri stood among the guardians. I request that Guardian Neri be appointed as my counterpart and guide. Our cooperation has already proven effective. The lead elder's expression remained impassive, but something like approval flickered in her ancient eyes. This is acceptable. Guardian Neri will represent Aurelian interests and teach sky vessel ways of jungle. Neri stepped forward, her posture formal, but her eyes betraying a hint of pleasure at the arrangement. I accept this duty, she said, touching the sacred markings on her arm. Guardians bridge worlds between village and jungle, between predator and prey. Now also between Aurelis and Earth. As the formal proceedings concluded, the gathering transitioned to a celebration. Aurelian musicians produced hauntingly beautiful melodies from instruments crafted from hollow wood and stretched membranes. Shared food symbolized the new alliance with both Earth and Aurelian provisions offered freely. Ryan found a moment alone with Neri as the festivities continued around them. So, he said with a smile, it seems we'll be working together for the foreseeable future. Neri's usual intensity softened slightly. Working together, learning together, perhaps more. She touched his arm lightly, the first casual contact she had initiated between them. Ferocious see true heart. They judge you worthy of trust. Neri begins to see same. Before Ryan could respond, a soft chuff announced the approach of the mother Ferocious. She padded between celebrating Aurelians, who stepped aside with respectful bows, until she reached Ryan and Neri. With deliberate movements, she settled beside them, her cubs following to curl at their feet in a display of trust that drew murmurs of amazement from the watching villagers. "I think," Ryan said quietly, meeting Neri's violet eyes, "this is the beginning of something extraordinary." 6 months later, Ryan stood on the observation platform of the joint Aurelian Earth outpost, constructed in the upper canopy of a massive sentinel tree. The structure, built primarily of local materials, with minimal technological footprint, provided a spectacular view of the jungle stretching to the horizon in all directions. The morning mist was just burning away as Neri joined him, moving with a silent grace that still occasionally caught him by surprise. She wore traditional guardian attire, but now a small fleet communicator was integrated into one of her leather bands, a practical concession to her role as liaison. "Supply shuttle arrives today," she noted, following his gaze to the eastern sky. "Dr. Kimura brings new seedlings for exchange program." Ryan nodded. "The botanical team is eager to begin the cross-cultivation experiments. And I believe Chief Thorne has prepared space in the sacred garden for the Earth specimens." Their professional relationship had evolved into a seamless partnership over the months, with each adapting to the other's methods and perspectives. The small research team that rotated through the outpost had quickly learned to respect both Ryan's authority and Neri's intimate knowledge of Aurelian ecology and culture. More than that, their personal relationship had deepened beyond either's expectation. Cultural differences that once seemed insurmountable had become opportunities for growth and understanding. Ryan had received the first stage of Guardian marking simple white lines across his shoulders that signified provisional acceptance into their order. Neri had embraced certain Earth customs, particularly the concept of written records, to supplement the oral traditions of her people. "Mother Ferocious returned to Northern Territory yesterday," Neri said, pointing to a distant ridgeline. "Cubs nearly full-grown now. 2 seasons more they establish own territories." The Ferocious family had become unofficial ambassadors in their own right, their continued acceptance of human presence serving as a living endorsement of the alliance. Other predators had gradually followed their example, approaching the outpost with cautious curiosity rather than aggression. "The Council seems pleased with the medical exchange program," Ryan observed. "Dr. Kimura mentioned that the enzyme extracted from blue fungi has shown remarkable effectiveness against resistant infections in early trials." Neri nodded. "Elders say knowledge flows like sacred waters, bringing life where shared, causing harm, where damned." She turned to face him directly. "Council meets at next full moon to discuss expanding alliance. Captain Reyes will attend." "That's sooner than expected," Ryan said, surprised by the accelerated timeline. "Does this mean they're considering the educational exchange we proposed?" "This and more." Neri's expression held a hint of secretive pleasure. "Lead Elder wishes to discuss formal bonding ritual between peoples. Says foundation must be strong for future growth." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Formal bonding as in diplomatic certification." Neri's lips curved in the subtle smile he had come to cherish. "Diplomatic, yes. Also personal." She touched the sacred markings on her arm, then reached for his hand, placing it over the simple white lines on his shoulder. "Guardian bonds are sacred between individual and jungle, between Guardian and Ferocious." Her violet eyes met his directly. "Between Guardian and Guardian when hearts align." Understanding dawned. "Are you saying what I think you're saying?" "Elders believe strong alliance requires visible symbol," she said. "What better symbol than union between first representatives, if accepted by both, of course." Ryan felt his heart race as the implications settled. "And what does Neri believe? Not the Guardian? Not the liaison, just Neri. Her orange fingers intertwined with his. Neri believes Ferocious judged Trueheart better than any elder council. Ferocious accepted Ryan from first meeting. Her voice softened. Neri took longer, but now sees same truth. Below them, the jungle pulsed with vibrant life. In the distance, the distinctive roar of a Ferocious echoed across the canopy. Not a threat, but a greeting, an acknowledgement of their presence in this shared world. In that case, Ryan said, drawing her closer, I believe both our peoples would approve this particular diplomatic arrangement. Their lips met as the first rays of sunlight broke fully through the morning mist, illuminating the platform in gold. Somewhere nearby, a soft chuff of approval suggested they had an audience, one of the now adolescent cubs keeping watch from a neighboring branch. Two worlds bridged by understanding, two hearts united by respect, and all around them the sacred jungle of Aurelis, flourishing under their shared guardianship.